Another form of bias to which humans are vulnerable is stereotyping. Stereotypes are the beliefs we hold about members of social groups. These beliefs include personality characteristics or behaviors that are typical of members of these groups. Stereotypes create expectations about people. For example, in a study conducted in 1995 shows that negotiators display more competitive behaviors and expect less cooperation when their counterpart is a business school student than when the counterpart is presented as a theology student. More recent studies confirm these results. For example, when a counterpart is categorized as high status, such as medical doctors or engineers, people think that the counterpart will be stricter on his or her price and more difficult to negotiate it with than when the counterpart is presented as a member of a low status group, such as educator or civil servants. In concrete terms, how does a counterpart's membership of a particular group influence the behavior of negotiators? To answer this question, American authors Ayers and Siegelman sent fake potential buyers to car dealerships. These fake buyers were trained to behave in a standardized way in front of the various car dealers they went to meet. More than 300 real negotiations were organized. The particularity of these negotiations was in the group membership of the fake buyers. 4 types of people were selected. There were males and females, and the people were either Caucasian American or African American. In this study, Ayers and Siegelman recorded 2 things. First, the profit margin that dealers made on their first offer to the fake buyers. And second, the final profit margin that dealers made on their last offer, which is the profit margin they made at the conclusion of the contract. To give you an idea of the prices, the average profit margin that dealers made on their first offer when negotiating with a Caucasian American man was $1,018. At the end of the negotiation, this profit margin fell to $564. For Caucasian American women, the results were less good. Dealers offered these women much less interesting first offer. The profit margin they made on the first offer was more than €100 higher than the profit margin they made when negotiating with men. As a result, at the end of the day, when the negotiation was over, the dealers got better prices from the women than from the men. They made $656 in profit, almost $100 more than when they negotiated with men. The reason explaining this result is quite simple: stereotypes. Women are generally perceived as less competent and more sociable than men. These stereotypes create different expectations, and these assumptions influence car dealers' behavior. In a way, the perceived incompetence of women has led car dealers to want to get more from them, and therefore to make initial offers that are less advantageous for women. Now take some time to think. How much do you think the first offers to African American male and female negotiations were? What profit margin did the dealers make after negotiating with these 2 types of negotiators? I'll give you a few seconds to think. Write down your figures on a slip of paper. Then you can compare them with the figures that Ayers and Siegelman got. Here are the figures from their study. Let's start with the African American women. The first offer made gave the dealer a profit of $1,336. That is $318 more than had been the case for Caucasian American men. In the end, in the final proposal, the dealers got a profit margin of $974, almost double the profit they had gotten from the Caucasian American men. The figures obtained by the African American male negotiators are even more shocking. During this negotiation, the first offers reached an average of $1,953, while the profit margin of the dealers at the end of the negotiation amounted to an average of $1,664, which is triple the profit that dealers made when facing a Caucasian American man. This study illustrates the power of stereotypes that shape our behavior. We simply do not act in the same way depending on the categories into which we place people. Our expectations vary, and these expectations, in addition to other variables such as latent racism, significantly alter behaviors in negotiation and in other contexts in our daily lives.